Hello, and welcome to this tutorial on the SD plugin for Krita. In this video, we'll be covering the features of this powerful extension and how it can enhance your digital painting workflow. The SD plugin provides easy access to a variety of settings and tools right within Krita, eliminating the need for copying and pasting between SD WebUI and Krita. Before I go into the actual features, let's go first into the settings, which you can go over here on the SD plugin config. If you don't see anything like this, it might be because you haven't installed SD plugin yet. So you need to check out this video over here or go check the link in the description on how to install it. Now, once you have all these dockers ready, let's go back to SD plugin config and go for these settings. These are my personal settings and my personal preference. Of course, you can change it however you want. I just like to squeeze the UI, so I turn this on and disable transparency mask. I enable auto hide layers and I click this don't create group layers, and I think that's about it. So we can go now to text to image. Here you can see on the text to image tab, which allows you to generate images, of course, based on text input. You have the same options in the SD Web UI over here, such as the samplers, the step, and the CFG scale. That's all over here as well. Base size and max size over here is the great thing about working with this extension. For example, I'm working with a resolution of 1024 by 512, which is a bit non-standard and not a square input. Because of this system of base size and max size, I don't need to worry about going over here and changing the height and width to exactly match what I want to make. If I have something over here that's like a square or 1 by 2 or whatever aspect ratio you want, it will always like fit into that selection. So if I start text to image, it will try to create this kind of resolution. So I don't need to fiddle around with these settings. I'm just gonna wait until it finishes, and there we have it. I have a generated image on my selection, and I didn't need to think about all the necessary like fiddling around with height and width just to get to that proper aspect ratio that I just wanted. What this basically means is the larger side, say I have this kind of selection, you can check the height and width over here, or you can go to tool options and look for width and height. So the larger size or the larger side, which is this height value, which is 400 pixels, will never be bigger than max size, which is 768. And the width, which is the shorter side, will never be smaller than the base size, which is 448. So since I have much smaller values compared to the base size and max size, introduce some stable diffusion artifacts such as duplication or just weird AI mess in the generation. It will try to scale it up so it matches the aspect ratio I'm going for much better. Then it will either upscale or downscale the generated image so that it fits snugly on this box. The selection tool is the eyes of stable diffusion, because whatever is inside that box, SD can see it, and it will only replace whatever is inside that space. Just like what I did last time, if I selected an image and start text to image, it will only fill up that box. This works wonders, of course, but also has caveats. For example, if the selection only includes a small portion of the image, like this boat over here, or maybe this city over here, and you start to say add an image to it, it might not have like the most context to work with. It doesn't know that these are buildings and they're on the background and supposed to be on this like yellow color because it's all foggy and atmospheric. So it may not have enough information to accurately generate the rest of the thing that you wanted to generate. So it's important to keep in mind the context of the image and what stable diffusion needs to see in order to generate a more accurate result. So if I wanted to say replace these buildings, I would probably make it so that I image to image this area so it also sees a bunch of the ship and this one and also the sea. Then maybe afterwards I'll just erase the parts that I don't need. And of course, one of the best ways of using this extension is image to image. I find myself using this feature a lot, but it can be a bit time consuming to fiddle around with the settings. Of course, I need to go to image. I import an image here, adjust the width and height to exactly match what I just loaded in, see if the generated images are great. Then I import that back into Krita and place it back where I want it to be. But over here in the Krita plugin, we don't need to worry about that because it will automatically do that whole process for us. So that's like the big quality of life improvement when using this extension, which is it removes the need for going here, adjusting the size, saving an image, going back here, and putting the image that you just generated. Now let's test out what this image to image can do. So I'll start image to image with this prompt. So this is the change that we saw. It changed the size a little bit, which is a slight bug as the developer noted. So that might get fixed soon. To avoid that, you can just box select an actual square by clicking and dragging and holding shift to constrain it to a box. Now that's a bit too drastic, but you can see where I'm going with it. For this one, you can see that if I do an image to image, there's a harsh seam around the end of that selection. So what I normally do, box select selection I want, then go to select and go to feather selection and maybe add like 10 to 20 pixels of fading. Now what this will do is add a bit of fade to the edges of the selection. And now when I run image to image again, let's make this p55, it now blends together to the image much more nicely. You can see here, if I isolate this image, you can see it has that fading effect and automatically blends to the underlying image that we have. So it sits much more naturally compared to this where we can see that really harsh seam around it. Then let's go to InPaint. InPaint is basically image to image, but parts of it are already erased. So this is what you would do if you want to change only a small part of the image, but you want to give SD a lot of context to work with. Because remember, whatever is inside the box is both what SD sees and what SD will replace. So if you don't want to replace the entire selection, you have to work with inpainting. And for inpainting, it works pretty much the same way as image to image, where you can remove certain areas and replace them with something else. For example, let's only try to remove this boat, but I want to keep everything else, like the buildings over here. First, I'll create a new layer here. Then I put some pixels around the area that I want to remove. It doesn't matter what color I choose for the new layer. This could be purple, this could be blue. As long as there's pixel data inside it, it will be treated as the mask for the InPaint tool to follow. And to ensure a seamless result, it's best to use a soft brush when erasing the parts you want to remove. So instead of this hard round brush, I'm going to select a much softer brush. So let's delete that and just use sea and ocean. Then in this case, I can only select maybe this part, and that will give SD a bit more context to work with instead of having it select this part, which SD won't really know what it's looking at. But if I give it this much context, it will know what it's looking at, but only replace this part. Of course, you can go ahead and don't use any selection, which is pretty much the same as selecting the entire image. So it will know what it's looking at and will give the most context since it sees the entire image. Depends on what you want. So, but for me, I'll just select this part, start in paint. Also, these settings are pretty much the same as ones over here. Mask content, fill, original, latent noise, and latent nothing. This is what is inside here on InPaint fill, blur, latent empty, latent noise, and preserve. Preserve and original is pretty much the same, and that's what I would recommend. You can go ahead and read all about the different settings on the SD WebUI wiki. But now I'll start with InPaint, and you can see it removed that mask for us. Now it's hidden. I forgot to mention, whatever the mask layer is, that's what needs to be selected when you start the InPaint. Otherwise, whatever is selected, whatever layer is selected, that will be treated as the mask. Now it's finished, but haven't completely erased the entire thing. That could be because of InPaint fill. I'm gonna try again, maybe with latent noise, or maybe blur, start InPaint. And there we have it. Now it tried to remove that particular area with just ocean and waves, since that's our prompt over here. So you can experiment with whatever InPaint fill, the mask weight, denoising strength, etc. Because it's the same settings as image to image. But just note that whatever you select is the context that SD will see. Now, let's go to upscale. Over here, of course, you can see that it's a bit rudimentary, not much options. If I'm not mistaken, the developer will continue adding features to this the same way for the other tabs. So we don't have access to the same options we have in the WebUI just yet. So you can go over here on the extras and here on the upscale options. You have way more options, and you can also change whatever you want it to scale up to. But over here, you don't have that option. But for now, if you don't have an active selection, it will change your canvas size to fit the upscaled image. So if I start upscaling now, and this is a 4x model, it will change 4 times to what it already is. Now it's upscaling. Now it's 4 times of what it originally was, and added a bit of sharpening and detail to the original image. But I don't want to work with 4K and 2K. I just want to work with, say, 1920 at most. So if that's what you want, you can also change the image size back down to, say, 1920. You're going to be downscaling it a bit. Or what you can also do is go ahead from our original resolution. You can go ahead and scale to 1920 by 960. Then have a box selection ready. Since this is what SD will see and also what it will replace, whatever the upscaled image is will also fit inside this box. But since we already scaled the new image and now it's a bit blurry, we can make use of this tick box right here, which is downscale image by 0.5 before upscaling, which will shrink it back down to a smaller size, then upscale it from there. I've started upscaling and it's loading. And now we have the upscaled image, and you can see there's a fair bit of difference between the two. It's slightly more sharper, but a whole lot wasn't like added in. So upscaling alone usually doesn't add a lot of detail afterwards, which is why I prefer using SD Upscale instead. SD Upscale is over here on the image to image tab, then go to scripts and go to SD Upscale. This feature allows you to increase the details in a specific part of the image, the same way image to image would. So I'm gonna do the same thing for perhaps the entire image. So I'm gonna select everything, then add a denoising strength of maybe 45. And since I have like an active selection, it will only fit the generated image inside that selection, and it won't change the actual canvas size. If you don't have an active selection, I think what will happen is the same way with upscaling, is it will enlarge the image that you have and change the actual resolution afterward. Since I only want more detail, but I want to keep the resolution the same, I'm gonna need to have an active selection. I just did that with Control A. Then I'm gonna start image to image. Another tip is to change the batch size to maybe like 4 or to whatever your system can handle. I'm gonna try and be 5 and start image to image. Now I'm just gonna wait. So the same rules apply from image to image. If you're already working at an upscaled resolution or like the final resolution of your piece. So right now I'm on 1920, which I think is the final resolution of this artwork. So I'm just going to stick with this, but only change the details of this image. Now you can see we have a bit more detail. It's a lot smoother compared to our original image. For example, these lines are much cleaner. Also this building, less like JPEG artifact, and also the edges of these buildings over here, much sharper, much more appealing, in my opinion. So you can pretty much keep doing that if you want to create more detail, but keep the overall composition. If I say want more detail, like really want more detail, I change this to 5 maybe to start this SD upscale. But you can see we're gonna have a bit of a trade-off since we're having higher denoising strength. It will create more detail, but it might change this image too much. There we have it. You can see this part, of course, changed a lot, and we don't want that. This part created an entirely different painting, but this area created a lot of detail to work with, which we may be able to keep. So maybe we can just erase everything else except for the ships part, since we kind of want that. And there you have it. Now we have like lots of detail to work with here. Of course, you can just go ahead and paint over this, much like you would when you're working in an actual painting. Besides that, that's pretty much how I usually use this extension. So yeah, I think that's about it. If you've watched up until here, make sure to leave a like. And if you want to see more videos like this one, make sure to subscribe. If you want to see how this was installed, you can go check this video in which I discuss how it was installed in the first place. And as always, thanks for watching. Bye bye.